Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Alan Hathaway at the Garrison Church of God. I am excited. This is the second Sunday of Advent coming, and I really enjoy the Advent season. This particular message that I'm looking at is I'm talking about the concept of character in our lives. And it actually comes from several different passages in the Bible. Genesis chapter 30, verses 22 through 24, and Psalm 81, verses 1 through 9, and also Genesis chapter 3, verses 21 through 23. I'm not going to be talking about all of those in this particular vignette of a message, but I do want you to understand where my thinking is coming from and where I have developed these ideas. I was struck when I read in Genesis chapter 30, verse 22, what the name Joseph meant. It's an interesting name, and I want to talk to you about the concept of an end of reproach. We often live in our lives with a lot of problems and difficulties. We can live with shame. We can live with unrealized expectations. We can live with desires for something better. And we also can live with tremendous amounts of suffering in our lives. And those are always difficult and problematic things. What has always struck me about the Christmas season is the celebration of the Incarnation. The idea that God entered into this messy world. The Creator didn't step back and play the whole thing out like it was a chessboard. He actually entered the process. And that is transformative. It changes everything for a lot of different reasons. And that is why the Advent and why Christmas particularly is so important in my thinking and in my a worldview. And I enjoy the other aspects of Christmas. I enjoy the lights and the pageantry, and I can't say I really enjoy a lot of the gift giving because I get tired of looking for gifts, to be honest with you. But I do really enjoy the season. I enjoy this looking forward to the coming of Christ, not only his first coming, but looking forward to his second coming. And that really is what Advent is all about. And so as we move toward Christmas, I hope you're celebrating this season. I hope it's filling your heart with joy and with an excitement that transforms things. One of the things that has struck me about the Christian faith from its very beginnings, and when I read about it in the New Testament and I read about it in early Christian history, one of the things that strikes me is what Christianity does not focus on. One of the things it does not focus on is celebrity. From its very beginning, Christianity was not about celebrity. It was not about powerful leaders. It was about people living their faith out and consistently living it in the world in which they walked, and doing so under the direction and the lordship of Jesus Christ. It was a transformative thing. In fact, the name Christians comes from that very concept. It comes from the idea of us trying to emulate who Jesus is in our lives. And Paul would talk to us about working with our hands quietly and having character. The writer James would talk to us also about this importance of character in our lives, to be people of true character. It is often in those moments when we are out of the limelight, when we are not trying to get lots of likes on our videos or our TikTok or whatever you want to try and get a lot of likes on. To be a celebrity is not the most important thing. to live honorably, to live with character, to provide a legacy of hard work and of production in life is important. I found it very interesting as I was looking back on this thing about what the meaning of the name of Joseph. We find in Genesis chapter 30 that the wife of Jacob has finally given birth to a son. She is his favorite wife. He is deeply in love with Rachel, but he is not as deeply in love with Leah. But God has blessed Leah with children, and Rachel has no children until finally it says God remembered her and gave her a son. And one of the things that she says immediately after Joseph's birth is, I have had my reproach lifted or removed, and now I have meaning or purpose in life. She also gives Joseph the name Joseph, and the name of that and the meaning of that name is God will add another, is one possible translation of it, but the word itself may also mean to add one, and comes from a Hebrew word that means to add to. And so the concept is that there is an addition in life. There is a value added, if you will, in life by people. And the man Joseph, as he grows up, lives up to the expectation. He adds value in his life. And through all the things that he suffers as a slave and as a prisoner, and ultimately being lifted to one of the second most important positions in Egypt, he is a man of character, and what drives him forward is character. But Joseph would never have reached that place in his life without having suffered the humiliations that he suffered in life, and having had to work hard with his hands and to understand what it meant to work hard. And so those things built the character of this man, Joseph. The writer of Psalm 81 would talk about the tribe of Joseph and the character that came out of that tribe of Joseph. It was the primary tribes. Two of Joseph's sons became tribes in the nation of Israel, Ephraim and Manasseh. And both of those tribal groups were very industrious and very directive in their future, and became very powerful as a result of that. They were people that were productive in life. That is a character trait that flowed down through them from Joseph. I thought about that in relationship to Joseph of Nazareth, the adopted father of Jesus, the man who raised him and developed his character. God chose Joseph for that very reason. He chose Joseph because Joseph was a man of character. Now, what was interesting to me about Joseph is that he was from an elite family. He was a direct descendant of David through King Solomon. And so he was a prominent person, but there were a lot of forces that had taken root in his life and had molded him and shifted him away from being an A-list celebrity in their world. And he instead lived a very obscure life as a laborer, a skilled laborer. And in that process of difficulty, suffering, working with his hands, he developed character. Had he grown up in a palace, he would not as likely have developed that character. We see that quite often in people that grow up with tremendous amounts of wealth and power, that they They squander the opportunity because they do not value people or things or anything in their lives. They don't even value their own labor. And so that becomes a serious matter. From the very beginnings, Christianity was focused on this concept. God sent his Son into this world to live and grow up in a family that Joseph created. He did so because of the character of Joseph and the quality that that man would embed in the life of Jesus. That is an important thing to understand. The Apostle Paul would say in Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, that in the fullness of time, or as we would say it, at the very right moment, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman. Part of that right moment was Joseph. He was the right man at the right time. Not a powerful, wealthy, A-list celebrity, but a man of quiet skill, ability, and a man who loved God and loved his family. Those type of people are rare. Character is built in the difficulties and the struggles of our suffering. Reproach is brought into our lives because of our desires, our wants. And if you look at the story of Rachel, you'll see that. But if you also look at what happened in Genesis chapter 3, in Genesis chapter 3, humanity has sinned in Adam and Eve. And God says humans now see the world the way we do. And that, I believe, is a reference to the Trinity. But he says, we are fearful, or I am fearful, that they will reach out their hand and take of the tree of life and live forever. God's concern was that without character, to live forever would be hell. Because character is what is built in the difficulties and the struggles. As Adam worked the land and as he understood the terminal nature of his life, he came to appreciate and value what was really important in life and developed character. Why did God throw Adam and Eve out of the garden? Because he knew they couldn't live in eternity without character. And if he let them eat of the fruit of life, they would live in a hell of their own making. And so God gives us that opportunity in Jesus Christ, as it were, to re-enter character. Paul would talk in Colossians about this concept of living with character in our lives in such a way that we don't live with reproach, but we live with a sense of purpose and direction and meaning and value. It's not as important what you reach in life. It is more important who you are in life. And that's what God calls us to be. He calls us to be men and women of character. I hope you are a person striving for character in your life. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you in church. Take care.